Welcome to our podcast. Today we're delving into the fascinating evolution of sacred music in ancient times. Imagine this. Ancient worship wasn't a quiet affair at all.
Exactly. It was boisterous, like the whole atmosphere bursting with sound.
Right before Jesus, the temple in Jerusalem was like, a living concert hall with trumpets, cymbals, harps, hundreds of Levite
Hmm.
singers filling the air. It was all about elaborate antiphonal worship where choirs exchanged calls and responses, creating an almost electric sense of sacred energy.
And the detail that really stands out to me is how organized it was. Ezra and Nehemiah even listed all those singers. We're talking 128 or 148 names, all part of a well-oiled professional musical ensemble.
Absolutely, and this wasn't random chanting, it was a rehearsed, almost military-like display of devotion. It's like, um, you imagine a flash mob today, but with way more precision and a spiritual significance.
Right. So, while Jerusalem's temple was booming with orchestral music, early Christians couldn't exactly afford that level of splendor, could they?
Yeah, early Christian worship, especially in those shady hours before dawn, was a stark, whispered contrast. They were, terrified of being caught. It was low-key, like an underground movement, literally whispering to avoid drawing attention.
Yep. That shift is really dramatic. From grand, resonant ceremonies to these secret, hushed gatherings. It almost feels like two very different worlds.
Right, and then there's pagan Rome. Now here's a twist. The music in Rome was so sacred that, when the flute players went on strike, the gods were said to fall silent. Imagine that power. No music. And the divine realm is, literally affected.
Yeah, that's wild. It really drives home how intertwined music and religion were back then, right?
Exactly, and then Christianity began its rise. As it conquered, religious space, the empire's entire musical landscape changed. Gone were the drums of Dionysus and, you know, Jupiter's temple choirs. In their place emerged the soft, measured chants of
Interesting
Christian
shift.
worship.
It's almost like Christianity took a decisive stance, almost a deliberate rejection of what they saw as pagan excess.
Totally. Music historian James McKinnon argues that early Christians stripped away the visual grandeur and instrumental spectacle, letting the pure, unadorned voice stand as the true instrument of worship. It was a shift towards moral purity over sensory indulgence.
But isn't it a bit extreme to completely discard instruments? I mean, they had such a rich musical heritage, and then they say, no instruments, just voices.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, Clement of Alexandria even articulated that idea, that instruments stirred passions and distracted from the purity of the soul. The voice was seen as the true lyre of God. But some might
Right.
argue it was more about, you know, distancing themselves from the overlapping cultural practices of the past.
Right. It was a statement, like a reset of what sacred music could be. Instead of echoing the grandeur of a temple orchestra, early Christians crafted something entirely new, from whispered hymns to antiphonal singing.
Exactly. And, you see this evolution dramatically in documents like Pliny the Younger's letter, where, around 111 CE, he notes Christians gathering before dawn to sing hymns to Christ. No harps, no flutes, just voices resonating in the darkness.
Yeah, that's powerful. And it's interesting that that record wasn't meant to praise them. It was part of an interrogation report. That means even non-Christian observations underscore the distinctiveness of their practice.
Absolutely, it offers neutral evidence about how different their worship was. And as time progressed, we saw another twist. By the 4th century, figures like Ambrose of Milan infused vibrant antiphonal choirs into public worship, rallying crowds with hymnody.
Yep, I get that. So we go from subdued, censored expressions to passionate public hymn singing, which kind of underscores, the political and cultural shifts within Christianity itself.
Mm-hmm. Yes. The Council of Laodicea even stepped in to regulate public singing. Only designated singers were allowed to lead the hymns. This reveals how seriously the Church took not just the message, but the medium, the music itself.
It's fascinating how the church recognized the power of music and controlled it to shape doctrine and community, isn't it?
Definitely. And while we see this transformation in Christian music, pagan Rome's musical tradition was also, under pressure. Consider the Tiburcines, the sacred guild of flute players whose strike in 311 BCE reportedly halted religious life in Rome.
Yeah, I remember that. That's just amazing. The idea that without their music, the gods just wouldn't listen. It really gives weight to the cultural significance of sound in religious practice.
Right. And then, as you might expect, when the Edict of Thessalonica in 380 made Christianity the state religion, the whole musical paradigm flipped. Pagan music systems with their temples and instruments were shut down almost overnight, making room
exactly.
for Christian vocal traditions.
So here we have this massive acoustic divide in history, from the thunderous temple music of ancient worship to the whispered defiance of early Christians.
Yes, and it's a real transformation. What's striking is the courage behind those soft songs, sung in fear yet also in boldness. There's a kind of resilience in choosing to voice one's faith against overwhelming odds.
And interestingly, modern worship tends to swing back to instruments, even guitars and drums. It makes you wonder, which style is really more sacred? The measured purity of the silent voice or the energetic expression of modern bands?
That's the big question, isn't it? It's not just about sound. It's about context and the motivations behind the music. The earliest Christians might argue, we were singing out of resistance, out of necessity, whereas today, performance might be seen as a celebration rather than a protest.
Exactly. Also, there's an ironic twist here. While the instruments of pagan rituals silenced as Christianity rose, modern society often embraces both. It's like history loops back on itself with new interpretations.
Yeah, and that's kind of a critique in itself. One might argue that by reintroducing instruments in modern worship, the Church risks reviving some of the theatricality that early Christians deliberately abandoned to avoid sensual distractions.
That's a challenging thought. Exactly, it makes you think. Is the evolution of sacred music about fidelity to an ancient tradition, or about adapting to the culture of the moment?
It's probably a bit of both. What resonates is that sacred music reflects the tension between maintaining a ritual's original emotional power and adapting to new cultural contexts.
Right, yep. And isn't it amazing how these ancient practices still influence us today? Even if we're not blowing trumpets in cathedrals, that legacy of music shaping religious experience is alive in every hymn and melody.
Absolutely. It's like a hidden narrative in the background of history, reminding us that music, no matter how loud or soft, has always played a role in our cultural and spiritual lives.
I mean, think about it. Did you ever consider that the difference between a bombastic orchestration and a simple, heartfelt hymn might actually be a reflection of deeper principles of faith and power?
That's a perceptive take. It's like choosing between two flavors of spirituality, one that embraces form and spectacle, and one that relies on the inherent power of the human voice and its vulnerability.
Exactly. And honestly, when you put it that way, both approaches have their strengths. Sometimes a full orchestra can stir the soul, and other times, a soft chant can resonate on a deeply personal level.
Totally. And that's the enduring legacy of this ancient evolution. The dialogue, the balancing act between sound and silence, between the external world and inner conviction.
Yep, right. So, if we're to ask, which music truly speaks to you? The booming, dramatic sounds of the ancient temple, the quiet defiance of early Christian whispers, or the vibrant modern worship bands?
Well, that's the beauty of it. Perhaps it's not about a hierarchy at all, but rather understanding that every era, every context, brings its unique style of sacred expression. It's as if the courage of those original voices continues to echo through time, adapting with us even now.
Yeah, I completely agree. It sure is a dynamic tapestry of music, faith, and history. One that reminds us that even in silence, there's a powerful story waiting to be heard.
Absolutely. Thanks for this really engaging conversation. It's been a journey through time, and oh, the layers of history behind every note are just so rich.
Right on. Well, that's our deep dive into the evolution of sacred music. From thunderous, instrument-laden rituals to soft, interior hymns of resistance. This conversation definitely leaves you pondering the power of sound in our spiritual lives.
Exactly. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to share this discussion with everyone who loves exploring history's hidden harmonies.